I was able to pay off $43,000 of debt in just over a year, and it wouldn't have been possible without first understanding these 12 common myths around being in debt. And knowing most of these easily saved me tens of thousands of dollars in interest because the faster we pay off our debt, the less interest we have to pay. So, with that said, let's just jump right into the first debt myth, which is if I make enough money, I don't need to worry about debt. Now, this could not be further from the truth. Income has nothing to do with this, okay? In fact, it could actually be more harmful. This might be a hot take, but having more income could be more harmful in your personal finances if you haven't built up the correct habits yet. Almost half the earners making $100,000 or more say they live paycheck to paycheck, and 36% of $200,000 earners also live paycheck to paycheck. So even the highest of earners don't have guaranteed financial success. Okay, so why is that? It's because they didn't build up the habits, the right habits along the way. They think their higher salaries will get them out of trouble, when in reality, I've coached people that have made around $40,000, $50,000. They have no debt. They're living the life that they want to live, and they're putting some money every single month towards, their next financial goal, which is awesome. And I've also coached people making over $100,000 a year who have about $100,000 in debt, and that doesn't even include their mortgage. And they're literally stressed up to their eyeballs because their habits put them in a spot, not their income. Okay. High incomes can be deceiving to make you think you have money, right? You get this nice big paycheck. But if you're only interested in improving like the current situation, aka like buying stuff for the now, you'll never have enough to plan for the future. So meaning if we only think about the stuff in our life now, or the stuff happening in our life now, we're never going to be prepared in the future. Like your future self is literally going to hate you so much for not doing more. And that's how I kind of feel right now, actually, because over 10 years ago, I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was in tens of thousands of dollars in debt. I had no financial goals, none. And I didn't care that I didn't have financial goals. And then that quickly turned into, okay, I still have all those things, paycheck to paycheck, a lot of debt. Then it was like, how do I try to find financial goals? And it eventually became this thing of this progression that I made. Okay, so it's not going to happen overnight. So that was debt myth number one. So if you're just joining me, the first one was, if I make enough money, I don't need to worry about debt. Okay, so we're going to jump right into the debt myth number two. Paying the minimum payments is good enough. Okay, that's a debt myth. And to be honest, it kind of depends on the context. Paying the minimum is good enough to not get penalized with additional fees from your lender. Okay, so if that's good enough for you, it's literally in the word, like minimum. It's like, this is your minimum. You can't give us any less money before we you're in trouble. But paying just your minimums is not good enough to pay off your debt in a timely manner. And it doesn't take a lot more per month to save thousands of dollars of interest and years of stress from, being in debt. And this one's tough to kind of explain verbally, because I think I need the assistance of my debt payment calculator, which I have for free for all my members in my free personal finance community. It's linked in the chat, but I'm going to try to explain it to you. Okay, so I have probably dozens of videos on my channel and live streams going through this, but more or less we want to pick one of two options. We want to pick the debt avalanche method, which is ranking our debts in order of highest interest rate to lowest interest rate, or we want to use the debt snowball method, which is ranking our debts in order of smallest loan amount to largest loan amount. And what we do is we make minimum payments on all our debt, and then whichever option you choose, so the debt avalanche, you would put extra money towards the highest interest rate, and the debt snowball, you'd put extra money towards the smallest loan. And we keep doing that until we pay off the first one. And then once we pay off that first one, all the money that we have going to that first one goes to the next one. And then that's kind of builds this chain reaction. And in some cases, guys, when I've been coaching people in their personal finances, they would be paying the minimums, and we would enter everything into the debt payment calculator, and it's something something that they've never done before, and they saw it's like, oh wow, for my $25,000 of debt, I'm actually I actually have about $15,000 of interest extra on top of the 25 that I didn't really consider, right? Because a lot of people, like, they think like, oh, okay, I have this amount in debt. So to use that example, oh, this person was walking around thinking, I have $25,000 in debt, not great, but it's manageable. I can do it. But they weren't thinking, oh, I actually have $40,000 of debt because I'm only paying the minimums. And doing that is, the interest is going to be insane. And their debt payoff date was in like 10, 12 years, something crazy like that. And I was like, let's do this. Let's try to find an extra $100 in our finances that we can apply to this debt. So an extra $100, just typing it into the calculator, it cut off like $10,000 of interest because they had a lot of higher interest rates. And the debt payoff was in half the time. So instead of 10 or 12 years, it was 5 or 6. I forget the exact, but it was $10,000 of interest and 5 or 6 years of our life, of this person's life, of getting out of debt faster. So it's like, it just doesn't take a lot. And again, I can't show you here on this view, unfortunately. However, again, I have so much stuff on my channel talking through this. And if you're interested, my free calculator is in my personal finance community, which brings us to the next debt myth. It's okay to take on debt for things you deserve. All right. And this one's tough. This one's really tough because you're never going to catch me telling someone else what to do with their money. I personally would not like if someone came to me and was telling me what to do. So I try not to do that. What I try to do on these live streams, in my videos, in my coaching calls, is to give people other perspectives and maybe other things that they haven't thought of, or another strategy or a workaround or something like that. Not like, hey, do this. It's like, hey, have you considered this and this and this? Which one do you think is better for you, right? That's kind of what I do. But and this is kind of based off the assumption of like what I've done. Oh, like always, like I like to think that I have a pretty strong personal finance background. I've been a corporate accountant for over a decade. I have had my own personal finance struggles that I've been through myself. And to be honest with you, that's probably more valuable than any career path, because anyone can, like, I don't know, get a degree in anything and, do corporate stuff, whatever. But like, if you've never experienced it before, you don't know necessarily the pain that someone's going through. You don't know like the things that actually work or don't work. So I think that's just very helpful. So that's kind of what I walk through people. Like, this is what worked for me. Let's try to find something that worked for you. But if I hear someone say that, hey, I deserve this thing, I can tell that their personal finance system, isn't perfectly set up yet. And I know that personal finances can be a very emotional thing. I totally get that. Like, there's a lot of, financial demons and stress, and there could be past stuff that happened, right? I totally get all that, but it's really best we try to keep it out of that. We try to keep it away from our emotions, because at the end of the day, we don't need our emotions over here bringing down our finances over here, right? And I have a quick kind of story about this. So I was working with someone on his personal finances, doing the coaching call thing and helping him with his budget. And he had an expense category called retail therapy. And it was one of his larger monthly expenses. And to be very honest with you, maybe I'm like a boomer, right? I'm really old or something. I'm not with it. I didn't know what that meant at the time. And partly because, like, I don't go shopping. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's basically like retail therapy is buying stuff for your like emotional well-being, essentially. So yeah, I again, I had no clue at the time. So I was like, hey, can you tell me like what exactly this means? So he said every time he gets sad or stressed, he would buy something online that he thinks would make him feel better. But that's a dangerous game. That's a really dangerous game. Buying stuff to make you feel happy. It's dangerous. And this category, his retail therapy line item on his budget, um, it was hundreds of dollars a month. Okay, we're talking like $300, $400, $500 a month. So I asked him like, what kind of things are you buying in this category? And he thought about it for a second, looked around a little bit, and he looked at me and was just like, I don't even remember. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, your biggest expense and you don't even know what you bought. Like, he couldn't wrap his head around the idea that his emotions, his thoughts were having such a negative impact on his finances and the goals that he wanted to achieve. So it was like, sorry, just coming over a little head cold here. He couldn't realize, yeah, it was impacting his finances, just like the headspace that he got himself into, where it's just like the discipline was completely gone. Every time there was a negative emotion, boom, he bought something, and it was just like this very, very bad process that he had set up. And yeah, this video, just to be very clear, this live stream, it's not a therapy session or anything like that. So consult your local psychologist, I guess. I don't really know, but the hundreds of dollars that he was putting in this category could have easily gone towards his debt. And he would have been debt free so much faster. So when we started, his debt free date was in 15 years from when we plugged everything into his debt payment calculator. And if we applied his retail therapy purchases per month, it would have moved his debt free date to the next 4 years. Sorry, guys. So literally, I think his average was low $400 a month. So if he just cut that immediately, and I don't necessarily like the idea of people setting up a budget just so they can cut everything. That's not how it works. I talk about this framework called North Star Goals. And basically what we want to do is write down a list of the most important things to us and then adjust all of our time, money, effort, sacrifices in our life through these North Star goals. And then everything else is where we can trim around the fat. So if he had gone through this process previously in this example, he probably would have figured out that maybe these retail therapy items were not on his North Star goals. And it was just like a reaction, a habit that he was doing, because really his goal and why I started kind of helping him and working with him is he wanted to obviously pay off the debt. He didn't really have much in savings or for his retirement. So he's like, I got to knock off the debt. So that was one of his priorities. And he just had a really hard time getting over the retail therapy thing. But yeah, if we had used the money from that line item, his debt payoff date went from 15 years to 4 years. Insane. He actually, unfortunately, wasn't really willing to do that. And yeah, so I don't know that, good luck to him. I wish him well. The number 4 debt myth is that debt is just a part of life and everyone has it. And technically it's true. A lot of people have a lot of debt, right? The average personal debt in the United States is $22,713, and that doesn't even include mortgages, which is crazy. Doesn't even include mortgages. And 60% of the largest holding debt individuals, so we're talking millennials and millennials and Gen X combined, say they don't have a specific plan to pay it off. Okay, and this was from a poll done by money.com, just to be very clear about that. So that's a problem, right? I'm over the thought of debt in this country, and I guess in this world, being a lifelong prison sentence in order to live. Like, you must have debt in order to go through your life. Now, there are certain things that you need to go into debt for. Like, I'm not against debt. Me and my wife, we have a mortgage, just for full transparency. Like, that is debt. Okay. But for most people, most people, a house is probably one of the things that you can't just straight up buy. It's pretty tough. It's a very, very small percentage of people that just straight up buy houses with, cash that they have. But having this like lifelong sentence that like, oh, I need to be in debt my entire life to be able to live the life that I want to live, I think it normalizes unhealthy financial habits. Sorry guys, this cough is like brutal. I haven't talked this much by myself in a few days, so the throat is kind of struggling right now. But I am getting through this list of 12. You can absolutely guarantee that. So unhealthy financial habits that you consistently need to spend above your capacity, your income capacity, your spending capacity, whatever you want to call it, to be happy in life. Like, we always need to keep spending and spending and spending and spending. And this is called, actually, there's a phrase for it. It's called the Diderot effect. Diderot effect. And basically what that means is, like, when you buy one nice thing, you soon realize that all the stuff around it isn't as nice, and you need to keep like trying to catch it up. So let's say, for example, I bought a new coffee table in my living room. I'm like, wow, that's a nice coffee table. And it's like, you know what? The end tables, they don't really go with the coffee table. I got to get new end tables. Okay. And then it's like, ooh, you know what? This couch just like isn't cutting it. Like, the end table shouldn't be the nicest thing in my living room. Like, let's buy a couch. It's like, okay, yeah. And it's like, oh, you know what? But I need a new carpet. I need a new rug to match it. I need new curtains to match it. Ooh, you know what? The whole floor on, our main floor is just, it's got to go. It's it's darkening our living room. Right? You get the point. And I'm dying over here, but I'm getting through this, guys. Very sorry. Okay. And I get passionate about this, and obviously very coffee about this. I'm coughing a lot. Because I used to have these thoughts too. Again, like 10 years ago, like I mentioned, no plans, no goals, a lot of debt, right? I wasn't even thinking about my finances. My focus was filling up my calendar on the weekends, sometimes the weekdays, just staying busy, trying to feel important. It was garbage. It was useless, guys. And I was only thinking in days, weeks, months. Like, months would be like, oh, if we had a vacation plan months out in advance, let's think about that. Let's start kind of planning for that. But now I'm thinking in decades. Like, genuinely, I have thoughts about the next decade and where we want to be, and even like 2 decades, like where we want to be. And that sounds nuts. But every dollar you put towards a financial goal, like paying down debt, like saving money, right? You slowly pull your future towards you. Think of it as like, when you start doing it initially, you put $1 towards a financial goal and you start pulling, but then you realize it's like so thin. It's like a floss, right? It's so thin. You're like, this is so like irrelevant. Like, this is nothing. And then towards the end, and like as you're building momentum, you end up pulling this like bigger, like what's those, like, oh yeah, like tug of war contests. You see those huge ropes, right? And and the huge people just pulling this massive rope. That's what it eventually gets to. Sorry. The number 5 common debt myth that is probably costing you a fortune is, I will always have a car payment. It's unavoidable. Ooh, interesting. interesting, controversial topic right now. Controversial topic, just to be very honest, right? There's a lot going on with car stuff, but cars are getting out of hand. Through the end of 2024, LendingTree.com said that the average car payment was $737. $737. If you guys are watching this live now, or maybe later on the replay, let me know do you have a car payment, and how much is it? I would love to kind of test against this here. Now, obviously, there's the chance I'm in the United States here, that in the United States, car prices could go up based on varying factors. And I'm not going to get into that. That's not what the purpose of this live stream is, but it's probably going to keep getting higher. And obviously, I know this is not me saying I'm anti buying a car. Again, I'm not anti-debt. We all know that we need reliable transportation to get to where we need to go and to be safe. I have 2 kids. Like, I would not sacrifice that either. Like, we have to be safe. Totally get that. And again, I hate telling what I can't talk right now. I hate telling other people what to do with their money. I mean, sometimes you do what you have to do, right? Even the used car market is probably at one of its highest times in the last little bit as well. But for the purpose of this topic, which was I'll always have a car payment, it's unavoidable. If you're someone living paycheck to paycheck, or maybe close to it, you're kind of teetering on that line, the last thing you should want to do is stay in like a continuous debt cycle. So it's like, okay, something happens, you really need a car, and you don't have 20 grand to buy a used car or whatever. So it's like, okay, you put a loan on it, right? You get loan, it's fine. You got to get there from, safety. But like once that loan period is up, don't trade the car in for like another car, and like you're on this continuous cycle. Like, I never understood the idea of like people always leasing vehicles every, I don't know, whatever it is, 3-4 years. Like, you're always in a lease and you're just like always making a car payment. I guess people just feel comfortable like, oh, okay, yeah, I get my $300-$500 car payment every month, and you just get comfortable doing that. For me, like, my wife's car is a 2012. My car is a 2015. And we have no plans on getting new cars unless like literally we have to. Just because they work fine. Like, they're fine. It's fine. We don't need a fancy new car. Like, we have boring sedans. It's fine, right? And every time, even if you pay it off every month, putting the money towards the car, it's just like a missed opportunity to apply that money to a more valuable financial goal, because whenever we're in debt, it's just the least optimal thing we can do with our money. Like, it's the least valuable thing we can do with our money is have to pay someone else back for it. Because what we're doing is we're not only pushing away our money from stuff that really matters, but we're making someone else rich by giving them interest on the payments, right? We're making someone else rich, a company, an industry. And yeah, that's why these industries exist, because they know people need to go in debt to buy stuff, unfortunately. Yeah, and so debt is it's just the biggest wealth killer. And again, not anti-debt, okay? So I'm not anti-debt, but we have to kind of make a plan. We have to try to figure something out. Because for me, once I started paying for my future instead of my lenders, my net worth went up a lot faster, like a lot faster. Because if you can imagine putting $300, $400, $500 a month towards yourself, or $300, $400, $500 towards a stranger, like, obviously the money that's going towards yourself is going to be a lot more beneficial for you, because that money to someone else is gone. Like, it's gone. And so it's just crazy how that works, right? It's crazy. The next common debt myth costing you a fortune is that debt payoff means you have to live miserably. And this couldn't be further from the truth. It's all about finding a balance. So I don't know if you guys know who Dave Ramsey is. He's the largest personal finance guru in the United States. He's well known for taking kind of the extreme approach to paying off debt. He's been doing this for decades now, and he's really just kind of hitched his wagon to the no debt thing. You got to admire it. Like, he's kind of stayed true with his message for decades, so good for him. And sort of, he does like daily shows and everything, and half kidding, he kind of tells people that when they're in a ton of debt, they have to just live off rice and beans. And of course, to a certain extent, the point he's trying to get across is the less money you spend on stuff, the more money you'll have for other stuff, right? It's kind of that simple. But I like my way much better, which was what my wife and I did when we were paying off $43,000 of debt in 13 months. Hey, Mark, what's going on, my friend? We simply aligned our spending to what I call North Star goals. And I kind of went over those earlier, right? Where we're making a list of the things that matter to us the most. So it could be life goals, like maybe you want to get in shape more, go to the gym, whatever. It could be financial stuff, like paying off your debt. It could be, I don't know, you want to read every day, like that's really important to you. Or you have kids, like obviously your kids would be important to you. Then you look at your spending, of where your money's actually going. So if this is your first time doing this, like the two of those things, your North Star goals and your spending, will most likely not be aligned. And that's okay, because you're just starting it, or you're kind of just getting your feet wet with it. It's not a big deal, because every month is a new opportunity to fix it. And then the fun part is like, oh, let's merge those together. Let's have our North Star goals. Let's have our expenses. And we use these goals as the filter for all the expenses and all of our life stuff coming into it. So now it's like, okay, here's the bubble of the stuff that we said mattered the most. And now we have to be true to ourselves and keep ourselves accountable and stay honest and all that stuff. And then we cut around the edges of everything else, right? So if it's not in this little bubble, then we give ourselves permission to kind of cut around it. And that's how we pay off debt while still doing the things that we want to do. And helping unlock your North Star goals, I think, was just so helpful for me when I didn't have a purpose necessarily. And the North Star goals list, it was very helpful, because what I ended up happening, and I didn't even necessarily mean to do this when I first started doing that. This was before I was doing any personal finance content or any coaching. It was just like me and my finances, like me and my wife and our finances. But what happened was we would write down things that were important now. We would write down things that were important in a few years, and we'd write down things that were important like much later on in life. It's really cool. And we created this, it was like this tiered system, and we didn't even realize that we were doing it. But I think it's really important to like branch out, like what's important today, what's important, in a month from now, a year from now, and you just kind of write it out like that. So yeah, I don't know what you guys think about that. If you guys have any North Star goals that you currently have, if it's something that you're interested in maybe trying to work out. But I just think it's very helpful. All right, so that was the number 6 common debt myth. Debt payoff means you have to live miserably. I completely disagree. I think you could take a very extreme angle to it. But what I see a lot when people try to do that is they just get fatigued, or they get they just can't handle it. It's very intense, right? Because at the end of the day, what this is like, sure, you can crank down your expenses to as little as possible, but like how sustainable is that really? Right? Because that's kind of the first go-to that we do when we're trying to put more money towards something. It's either, okay, we can either reduce expenses or increase income. Those are really kind of the two levers that we have. So the easiest thing for people to do right away is reduce the expenses. And fundamentally, like there's only so many expenses that we can cut too. Like even if you think about it, like whatever your expenses are, let's say you no longer have a roof, you stop eating, you stop doing everything, you go down to zero, but you can't go lower than zero. So let's say you're spending $3,000 a month. Sure, you can save $3,000 a month, but you can't do any more. That's why I like to preach of trying to increase income. I think that's really like the better lever that we can pull with this. And it will take a little longer, but it's more beneficial in the future. So let's just jump right into the seventh common debt myth that's costing you a fortune, which is there's no point in saving while I have debt. Okay. And I hear this a lot, actually, which is why I wanted to include this, where doing both can be tough. But first of all, we just got to clear something up, because saving money, in my opinion, is not a milestone. It's a habit. So it's arguably the most important skill to build up in your personal finance foundation. And while personally I do prefer focusing on your money, doing one thing at a time, I don't like when all of our money is distracted, because right now, like, oh my gosh, as the world keeps continuing to spin, the more and more, opportunities, I'll call them, that are out there to put money into that can potentially make money is insane. It's insane. And I think people just get very distracted. We see the shiny thing. I've been so guilty of that so many times, like so many times. And for me, it never really worked out well. But back to saving money, like saving money, it's not going to help us, to be quite honest with you, it's not going to help us progress that far. Because the idea of saving money is me saying, like, hey, stock money in an account that probably has a very low interest rate, and just kind of let it sit there and just let it do its thing. It's not going to be sexy. You're not going to get a great return on it, but it's just like a buffer that we need to build up. It's a habit that we need to build up. And it really kind of, I guess the phrase that I'm looking for here is an emergency fund. Okay. And quick story behind this. So working with someone on his personal finances, and every single month he was like teetering towards the edge of like going below zero in his bank account. And he didn't have any savings. So I was like, what are you trying every month to kind of save a little more money? And he's like, yeah, I really try like at the end of the month, but there's never any money like left over. And I was like, okay, we need to sort of prioritize the saving first. We need to like get paid and then get money out the door, like in another account, and just, it's gone. And we build up the habit. So we get paid, it's gone. So he was someone that get paid weekly. So I was like, hey, since you haven't really been successful in saving money yet, why don't you just, every paycheck, we save $25 a paycheck. And then at the end of the month, you'll have $100. And he's like, I don't know, that's not really going to get me out of the situation that I'm in. I was like, well, I disagree, actually, because I think right now you have zero savings. And after the first month of doing this, you'll have $100 of savings. And you haven't had $100 in savings, he told me, for like months, right? It's been a while. And I'm like, and then this is more to build up the habit than actually like have the money to save, like to save your finances, right? You're not going to save your finances here. But over time it might, but next month, you're not going to save it next month. That's the thing. Like, we want to rush everything. It might not work like that, which is kind of frustrating. So he did the thing, and yeah, we met the month after, and he was all excited because he saved the $100. His bank account was not teetering on zero. And then he's like, you know what, next month I want to try and do 50 a check. And I was like, whoa, let's go. Like, so that's the kind of momentum. Like, you see a good thing happening and you want to keep it going, and you try to just keep improving on it. Even like a small amount, like $25 a week, anyone can do that. I think anyone can do that. It just starts somewhere. Okay. Sorry for the coughing, guys. I'm just getting over a little head cold thing. All right, so this is bringing us to the eighth common debt myth that's costing you a fortune, which is that debt is only a problem if you're behind on your payments. I hear that a lot too. It's like, why? It's not a big deal. I make the payments that are required. Not a big deal. And I would say, like, okay, it depends. It depends. You might feel like you're staying afloat by making your monthly payments, but like I talked about a little earlier in the live stream, just a little extra money towards your debt significantly pays off your debt faster, significantly reduces your debt-free date, which I think everyone should know what their debt-free date is and then try to improve it. You can do that by using the calculator inside my free personal finance community. It's free, by the way. The calculator, everything's free, right? Everything's free. Because a little extra money makes a huge impact. I talk about the power of $100 a lot. And that's basically just how can we find $100 extra a month in our finances to be able to apply really towards any financial goal, but specifically debt, okay? Because of the way that interest works, if we pay $100 more, I mean, the interest is the killer, and the interest is what's going to get wiped out faster. But just because you can make the payment doesn't mean you should accept being in debt, okay? And I see this all the time. Like, even people in my family, they have a student loan debt, and they're like, why would I, like, I'm very comfortable with this payment. Why would I want to do it faster? Like, the thought process is like, they're like, why would I want to pay more money to them? And it's like, well, no, you're kind of thinking about it backwards. You're paying more now, but at the end of the road, you're going to have saved a lot more money, like a lot. Because student loan debt can last forever, right? Years and decades, whatever. But so it's like at the end of the tunnel, like you're going to be saving thousands of dollars. Yes, you have to pay more now, but you save more later. So it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off. So you have to ask yourself, like, if you're willing to make that trade-off. So I don't know if you guys are, watching this live, if you're willing to make that trade-off, like pay more now so you can have more money later. Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. All right, the number 9 common debt myth that's costing you a fortune is you need a high income to get out of debt. That's what a lot of people think. My income is not high enough to get out of debt. And this is just really false. The motto I have around this, and I like this a lot, habits are greater than income. Might be controversial. I feel like a lot of people just think that their income will save them. And yeah, I guess to give some like general examples that I've seen, like when I've had a couple people come up and tell me like, hey, I can't pay off my debt faster because I don't make enough money. And I actually love when people say that because, I always get my coaching hat on and like, okay, I can help this person. Cause I ask them like, it's more of like, well, that's great actually, because, I talked about this a little earlier in the live stream, but like our income is actually in our control. So if you think your income is low, we can try to improve it, right? Because no one's going to assume the responsibility for your income. So I don't like when people sit there and they just, they say that their income's low, and they've been saying that their income is low for years, and they just kind of accept it. I don't want to see that for you guys. So if you're sitting there listening like, oh, maybe that's me, like it is possible to change, to try to change career paths, gain a new skill, do a side hustle. I mean, people are out there are doing it. They're hustling. They have multiple jobs just to try and like get stuff done and like live their life, reach financial goals. So I challenge you guys, like it's possible. It's definitely possible. But I learned a long time ago that like the more power. So when we say that we have a low income and we kind of defer it to someone else, we deflect it. It's like, oh, I have a low income because my boss sucks. I have a low income because the government sucks, right? I have a low income because the area that I live in. It's like, okay, so now what you're doing is instead of pointing back at yourself like, oh, hey, I have some responsibility here, you're deflecting the blame, you're pointing it to someone else, and that means you're giving that person or that thing just full control of the situation. Because back in the day, I used to believe wholeheartedly that I am worth what someone else is willing to pay me. I just thought that made so much sense, right? We go to work, we do some good stuff. Hopefully, our boss and their boss likes us, and they like us enough where they can give us more money and give us more responsibility. But now I wholeheartedly disagree with that, and I actually think about it like this. I now think that I am worth how much I think I'm worth. So what does that do? That puts the power of my income back in my hands, right where it belongs. And over the last 10 years, to be perfectly honest, I've worked for 4 different companies. Because for me, like the annual 2-3% raise, like just wasn't going to work always. I wasn't going to accept that as like the normal. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, let me just hang around till next, January, and I'll get my 2.5%. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, sir. Oh, thank you. Like I'd rather be in control of like my career path. And again, if there was no growth potential at the place, I just simply left. And I found that moving from company to company allowed me to get higher raises than what were available at my current job. So I say this just to maybe help someone who's watching this now. Like maybe there's a way that you guys can do that. And yeah, now obviously I've like really taken this extreme of like I'm worth what I think I'm worth by trying to, make content for you guys eventually, not soon. I want to help people for free right now, but eventually this is going to be a business of mine, like where I'm going to make free content. It's going to go into, a business thing where I'm helping people. That's just kind of the goal. And then that's going to put the power of my income in my hands, like truly, because I work a 9-to-5 job and I'm doing this, right? So, the 9-to-5 job, it's tough to be in full control, but I'd like to think that I have somewhat of a control of that process. Okay. So let me know what you guys think of that in the live chat here, if you're watching still. The number 10 common debt myth that's costing you a fortune is you saying, I'm too busy to focus on paying off my debt right now. I've heard it a lot. And if we go back to the stat that I talked about before, earlier in the live stream, was that 60% of millennials and Gen X don't have a plan to pay off their debt. Now, those are the 2 age brackets with the most amount of debt. And I guess that makes sense. A lot of those people probably have homes that they haven't paid off yet based on their age brackets, right? Because, I don't know what's after Gen X, baby boomers. They've been around a while. Maybe they paid off their debt. And then we have Gen Z, who maybe have started buying homes or whatever, but the debt is in millennials and Gen X. So 60% though is 3 out of 5 people who don't know what to do with their debt. And that just sounds pretty average. I don't like being average, guys. I don't think any of us do. We don't want to be average. So when we think of the phrase like, oh, I'm too busy to focus on my debt right now, it just means that you prioritize other things instead of that, which is fine. So if that's the case, then that's fine. But we also can't say, hey, like, why am I in so much debt? And also say, these 10 other things are my bigger priority than my debt, right? We can't have both things. And debt is a part of our life because we're making it a part of our life. And I'm talking to an earlier version of myself. Truthfully, like I was making debt a part of my life. I was one of those people that was accepting like, hey, I'm making the payments. Like, what's the problem? That was me. So going through life not having a plan on how to manage our money because we haven't taken the time to figure it out. And that's like a hard pill to swallow. Because we think that we're like awesome at stuff. I used to. It's like, hey, I went to school for accounting. I know what I'm doing with money and finances. Like I know what I'm doing. And I didn't. There was a time I didn't. I was saying that I was someone who I was not. Basically, I was telling myself that I was this awesome money, financial, whatever person. No, my actions were not matching my words at all. So what I did, and kind of what I like to recommend to people, is like, okay, if you look where you spend your time, your money, your energy, the sacrifices that you make, these are the places where you're telling yourself you prioritize more. It's tough. It's tough if you actually do like a time audit or something. So if you're racking up credit card debt, if you're watching Netflix for 3 hours a night, if you eat, I don't know, what's a bad snack? Doritos, I guess. I don't know. That's the life that you chose for yourself today, right? It's like that. Those were the priorities of the day. And again, talking to my older self here. But I want you to try to maybe challenge yourself to think about stuff in longer time horizons. Like, what would you do from 10 years in the future? Like, what would you in 10 years in the future think of what you're doing now? And think about like, what would now you, like today's version, what are you thinking about 10 years ago from now? Like, what are you looking at that version of yourself and like, man, that guy or that lady sucked, right? What were we doing, right? That could be you in 10 years, looking back again, like, wow, we still haven't done the thing. Like, what are we doing, right? So you got to make your future self happy. And I do recommend, like, if someone's sitting there saying, like, oh, I don't have time to make money, do the finance thing, it's like, do a time audit. Seriously, it is a painful exercise, but it's very helpful to see, like, where actually is your time going? Because I think as humans, like, we're so busy and all this stuff is happening. But if you actually write it down, first, there's going to be two things that happen. First, you're actually going to see where you're spending your time, okay? And that's kind of the goal of this. That's what we want. And second, when you start tracking it, you're going to you're not going to want to put Netflix 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Like you're not going to want to put that, and it's going to force you to like, ooh, maybe I should like, okay, 8 to 9 I'm going to update my budget, and then 9 to 10 I'm going to just read, and then then 10 to 11 I'll watch Netflix, right? You like switch it up where it's like you don't make yourself seem like such a mess. Right? Again, talking to my older self. So that's just kind of where I stand with that. And we only have two more guys, two more common debt myths that are costing us a fortune. Number 11 is, once I pay off my debt, I'll be financially secure. This is interesting. This is interesting to me because I think that becoming debt-free is amazing, okay? And personally, like, we have all of our debt gone except our mortgage. We have a mortgage. So being debt-free, if we got rid of our mortgage tomorrow, man, I would feel incredible. Okay, we're not close to that, but just as an example. But debt-free should not be the end goal, though, right? It's the goal that we want to accomplish so that we can do other goals. So obviously being in debt is the least efficient thing we can do with our money. But personal finance, it doesn't stop. At least it doesn't have to. It can if you want it to. But there's always like the next goal, which is awesome, right? So if you became debt-free, it's like, wow, okay. And if you think about paying off debt as this example, like let's say like paying off debt, you're doing the snowball. So you're paying off debt and then all this money goes to the next one, the next one, the next one. Think about when you become debt-free and you've been paying off hundreds or thousands of dollars a month to like finally get your debt off, right? And then now you have hundreds or thousands of dollars that you can put towards the next financial goal. It's like, wow, you know what? This is really going to spruce up my retirement, or finally hit that, emergency fund number that I've been thinking about, or what, right? Whatever the thing is, it's like, it just really compounds on itself, and you're just adding more money to stuff that you say matters the most. And it's very exciting. But yeah, so I think dangling the, hey, I want to be debt free carrot is amazing, but you also have to have another carrot behind it. I guess that's kind of what I'm saying. So plan for the, save money, pay off debt, and then have something massive behind it that you can also just kind of like sink your teeth in once the debt's gone. Number 12, common debt myth that's costing you a fortune is that once you're in debt, there's no way out. Ooh. I heard this a lot too. Like, oh, here, at least in the United States, I think there's this like perpetual feeling of just like, hey, I have to be in debt in order to live my life. And I talked about it earlier. I won't go into it again, but it's like, I think we keep buying big things. And I think, maybe house is like the one exception. It's like, it's very hard for most people to buy a house with just cash. So that's why I think mortgages are reasonable. Obviously, like, there's a lot to consider there. Not just any mortgage has to, you can't like cripple yourself with the mortgage payments. Anyway, but there is a way out. So I do disagree with this. And it doesn't matter kind of what happened in the past. Like maybe there's some like financial, I don't want to call it trauma, but like challenges that you had. And you just like in your mind, you're like, oh, wow, I'm just not good at this. If you keep telling yourself that, you're probably not going to stick with it. So you have to try to find a positive spin. What matters is that you're trying to make a change. And at least that's what I'm assuming if you're kind of still watching this live stream, which I really appreciate you guys, the ones that are watching. If you're watching the replay, also appreciate you guys. But it's all about like incremental progress. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen next month. It might not even happen in a year, right? But if you're seeing progress, then that's your sign that you know it's working. And that way you know that there is a way out. Because if you're seeing progress, that's the way out. It might be a slow build, but there's a way out. And I unfortunately, like, I keep going back to my like personal examples of working with people, but I just think it's important where about a year ago, which is crazy, I started taking calls with people and they would just kind of fall off the face of the earth. They would like do some calls and it seemed like stuff was going well, but then they would just kind of ghost me, but then they would reach out eventually and like, I can't get around to it. They would just kind of make excuses and I could just tell that like they just felt frustrated that they weren't getting the progress that they were hoping for. Even though they were having small incremental progress, because the small incremental progress in the beginning turns to, moderate progress, which turns to what's after that? Amazing progress, whatever, you get the point, where it's like it keeps building and it's like this, it starts here and you're like, man, what's going on? And then all of a sudden you get the hockey stick thing going up and it's like, wow, this is so cool. Like, why didn't I do this sooner? Right? I get that a lot. It's like, oh, I wish I did this sooner. I wish myself that I had started doing this stuff earlier on. But anyway, guys, I apologize. I'm coming off like a head sickness thing, cold, whatever. So my throat's dying, but I'm going to try to do these streams. Again, I was kind of off for a week with some family emergency stuff, but I'm going to try to do it nightly. Again, there's some stuff in the background that I do have to take care of. I'm going to try to still do this nightly, but I don't want to make any promises about nightly. I'm going to very much try, but I want to make this at least a recurring thing a few times a week. I don't think I really shouted out my personal finance community that much tonight, so I just wanted to share that. It's Dollar Discipline University. I've pinned the comment in the chat. The link's also down in the description of this video. It's on my homepage on the channel. Like, it's a free personal finance community. I'm helping people save more money, helping people pay off debt more efficiently, and I'm helping people just build the confidence in their personal finances, build their personal finance foundation, again, to go towards the next goal. That's really it. Just like save money, pay off the debt, build up the foundation, build up the confidence, go to the next one. There's a lot of awesome people in there that are making changes. They're on the same path that you are. They're trying to reach the same goals. that you are, okay? And everything inside the community right now is completely free. So the tools, the training, the community, my time, I'm taking coaching calls in there for any new members. So take a peek in there, guys, and that's gonna be it for me tonight. I will see you in the next Finance After Dark live stream.